Welcome to One Shots Tavern, Downtime, Episode 2. Today, I am joined by Eryn, or you may know her as Vesper Frost from The Eye of the Tyrant, our actual play. Welcome, Eryn.
Hey, thanks.
Eryn and I became pretty quick friends and colleagues after Eryn joined one of my Start Playing games, and then transitioned over to being one of my players in the actual play. Eryn is a game master for hire over at Start Playing Games as well, but also is a Twitch streamer and a TikTok content creator, something that I might not be able to say about myself in about 9 months.
Mm,
So, Eryn, let's talk about your introduction to Dungeons and Dragons first, because you are a relatively new player slash GM.
yeah. I think compared to all the other players in the actual play, I am 100% the newest player. But the question is, do you want my original story of my introduction to Dungeons and Dragons, or do you want my actual?
Oh yeah, I want the actual one. Give me all of the dirty deets, because yeah,
Oh,
that's
so
what this is all
that's the
about.
original. The very if you want the dirty details, you want the original. Funnily enough, I'm 32, and
Me too.
back when back when I was 8, I had a very large crush on a guy who introduced me to the world of emulators, so I was able to play older Final Fantasy games. I was a nerd. Always been a big nerd. Always been a gamer. However, I was also very much into creative writing. That's always just been my bag. And he was like, "We're playing Dungeons and Dragons. I think you would like it. Would you like to try?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I got up, dressed all real cute. My friend did cute space buns. I had these heels on, and I went
Yeah.
to, I think it was a games workshop in my local town with this guy, some other guy. I don't even remember what he looks like or what his name was. And then their dungeon master. I can't even remember what I played. It was such a terrible experience, unfortunately. So imagine, I don't know what D&D was like in 2010. I don't know what version it was on, but
It was
whatever that was.
3.5.
That means unfortunately nothing to me. But yeah, I don't remember what I played. I don't remember much of anything other than this guy had drawn a map on a large piece of paper. I don't even think we had tokens. I think we just were using little placeholder token sort of things.
Yeah.
And he was like introducing us to this town. And I think the plot hook is you find goblins in a building in this village. And my character was the one who found it. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to fight them. I would like to burn the building down. And he was like, okay. And what I didn't know at the time is this guy hated my guts.
Oh
So
no.
I burned the building down. He immediately came up with, "The guards of the town are very upset that you burned this building down, even though it was full of goblins, so therefore you're arrested and we're throwing you in prison and you can't play with us anymore." That's my original introduction to Dungeons and Dragons. However, how I actually really got into it was back in 2000 and it wasn't pandemic years. It was after pandemic years. Math is hard. I'm a DM and math is hard. I think it was about 2-ish years ago. I was like really in a kind of hard place mentally.
Yeah.
And I was like, Screw it. I'm going to put myself out there." And I found a group who was playing in an Exandria campaign. The DM actually approached me and said, "I'm starting this campaign. Would you like to join?" I placed a little ad in a Looking for Games Europe
Yeah.
Discord group.
Yep.
Um, And from there, I binged watched Critical Role. I finished like the first 2 campaigns in about 6 months. Um, and from there, I joined a couple of different campaigns. Some of them have worked out, some of them have fizzled. And then I just decided to DM as well. That's yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. The story of like your first experience, right? Being the player who you're there for a boy. We've all been there.
I was there for a boy.
And you don't really, of course, and it's not your fault, right? You don't understand the etiquette of playing Dungeons and Dragons at that point.
Nope. Yep.
Now, you as a game master can see, oh, this player wants to just burn the building down. Huh.
Yeah.
That throws a bit of a wrench in everything that I have planned, but also having a adversarial game master running for you, the worst.
It
Always the
really
worst.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it
I mean,
ruins, yeah.
from a dungeon master's perspective now, I do understand it, but at the same time, I've definitely had to learn to roll with the punches.
Yeah.
I've had players who have completely broken the law in a city, and I'm like, "All right, now you guys are going to court, so have
Yeah,
fun with
there's
that."
consequences for your actions. Crazy thought, right? And yeah, absolutely. So you also stream on Twitch
Yes.
relatively often, not as often right now, just because you are running a bunch of games on Start Playing Games. Tell me about that. Tell me about, because that's your introduction to content creation, right? Is this Twitch and streaming space. So yeah, tell me how you got started with that.
So, okay. I'm not necessarily like an original streamer from Twitch, but I have been streaming on Twitch since 20, so almost 11 years. I think actually, no, I think 11 years I think that's about when I started.
So pretty
It
early,
was, yeah, pretty early.
back when
I'm never
Twitch
good at
paid
remembering dates.
really well.
I wasn't a partner though.
So that's
I
fair.
mean, yeah, my, my Twitch career is definitely an interesting story because I just started it by chance. I had a good friend whom of which you know, who is a player in one of your campaigns, suggest to me that I
Hi, Ryan.
hi Ryan, suggest to me that I start streaming on Twitch because, and I believe the quote was, "Your reactions are hilarious." Because we were playing like Minecraft or something. We had like a
Yeah.
little group of writers who we were doing like NaNoWriMo, and so that's how we got to know each other. But we all liked games as well. And yeah, so he was like, "You should stream because you're hilarious." Um, From there, I was a Minecraft content creator for quite a few years, which is not the proudest moment of my life to say that I was.
There's nothing wrong with being a Minecraft content creator, alright? My best times ever streaming on Twitch was having random idiots that have grown up now join my games and just cause chaos.
Yeah,
By far the most interactive community, but continue.
yeah, yeah. No, but I streamed for about a year until I got partnered. I got partnered accidentally. My my husband, who I met through Twitch, at the time, I was actually in another marriage. Just spilling out all the drama here. But I
Fine.
was in another marriage. He began to my now husband began to network with me back in 2014. And he was a Dark Souls streamer. Like he just speed ran the crap out of that game. But he would raid me way before the raid button was a thing. He'd
Yeah.
actually send his viewers over to me. Obviously, my viewers got boosted. One of the Twitch admins saw that I was getting a lot of viewers, and so she approached me and she was like, "Would you like partnership? We're doing a charity stream." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, why not?" And he
Yeah.
was really upset, I will say. He was very upset that I got partnership off of his viewers because he was trying to get partnership. And then we started dating after my divorce.
After the divorce, yes.
The divorce.
Into
Yes.
listen, out of a crappier situation into a better, happier situation is nothing
Exactly.
to be ashamed of ever. So, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I too would probably be a little bit annoyed that the raids that I was sending my crush's way got them
Yes,
partnered, but
yes.
not me. It's a it's happy in the end, and that's what
In
matters.
fact, I think the guy that he was ranting to when he got mad that I got partnered ended up being the best man at our wedding too.
That's great.
That just ties in.
Just a nice little online content creator wedding that has
Yeah,
lasted
yeah.
a while. So
It
yay.
has, yes. Yes, it's
Uh,
good.
yeah, that's amazing. Listen, I've tried listen, okay, no, I haven't really tried. That's the big thing. I could probably do the Twitch streaming thing and do it regularly. I just I don't know what it is that I can't keep my attention on in order to do the thing. Every time I do it, I meet awesome people and they join and they're like, "Oh, sweet, we're friends now." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Fantastic." And then I go 6 months without going live on anything. Hopefully that'll change here on One Shots Tavern. Eventually, we will be doing some online game streams of some sort. But it's hard. It's a lot of
It
hard work
it
and
is.
dedication. I think the part for me that
To
I don't like is the whole stay online for at least 4 hours thing.
yeah. To anyone looking into being a content creator or being a Twitch streamer, I highly recommend you don't. Um,
Exactly.
it's unfortunately, it's a lot more than just being online. It the sphere has changed, unfortunately. Back when
It
I was
really does.
originally a streamer, you all you had to do was be online. But
Yeah.
now it's you have to be online. You have to put out TikToks, you have to put on Instagram, you have to put out
So many
YouTube
things.
videos. So many
Yeah.
things. And I struggle myself making sure to put out a daily TikTok video.
Yeah. Oh, believe me.
I'll just
Yeah.
stream on occasion when I really feel like it. Right now I'm enjoying games for myself personally. Like it can be stressful having to entertain.
It really is. Listen, I don't do it as much right now, which is funny because now all of a sudden our TikTok account's like actually taking off. But having to post 3 times a day on TikTok at like intervals sucked. Just getting up to 1,000 followers was the worst. And I hop onto Instagram Reels, right? And I attempt to do the same thing. And you just don't get any traction because it's a whole different culture. And then you
Oh,
start to
yeah.
realize that YouTube has its own completely different culture,
Yep.
and Twitch has its own completely different culture, and Kick has its own completely different culture. And so it just gets worse and worse because
Really
yeah,
does.
you have to think about what you are posting on each of these things. It's not enough to just go, "Oh, I'm going to post the same video on all of these." I'm going
Yeah.
to post the same live stream on TikTok Live as I do on Twitch, as I do on YouTube, as I do on Instagram, as I do on Kick, and whatever stupid streaming service has come and gone in that time
Yeah.
because the audience react differently. They're looking for different things and they want to be entertained in a different way. So I would say like Gen Z and like our age of millennials are very much like the people who are still holding on to Twitch, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of Gen Z were raised watching Minecraft videos. They're all adults now. Like all those people that watched us play Minecraft back in the day are
It's hard to think, isn't it?
they're full on some of them have finished college at this
Yeah.
point. I remember one of them messaged me and was like, "Hey, do you stream anymore?" And I was like, "Oh, hey, we used to play Minecraft together. How's life?" And they're like, "Oh, I got my degree." And I was like, "Holy crap, I'm old." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I don't like to think about it too much.
No, it's rough. It's rough being in our 30s at this point, but it's content creation is definitely a hard game. If any of the viewers are looking to get into content creation out there, for one, you can check out the link in the bio. Here we have our affiliate link for Podbean. If you want to start a podcast, join that. If you need a link or a Beacons link website, check out oneshots.tavern.com because we've got a sign up on there that would help the show. Uh, but yeah,
Gotta
let's
get those promos in.
gotta get them all in. I'm supposed to
You
talk about
really
them
do.
all the time, and I just forget. I don't even mention them on the normal podcast, and I'm supposed to. But that's the problem with content creation is in order
Yeah.
for us to make a living doing this, we have to be on top of those links. We have to be on top of our affiliates. We've got to be on top of our sponsorships all the time, which
Really.
it
Yeah.
makes things complicated. It really does. But
Even on Start Playing Games to draw it to there, you put out a fantastic video that talked about GMs who are looking to get started on Start Playing Games, and you gave some advice. And I watched through the whole video, and one of the tips you gave was like, put emojis in your title. And I was like, oh, maybe I should try that. And I literally did that. And then I got like 4 or 5 different messages within the span of 12 hours.
it's crazy how something so small and stupid affects
It's,
the
yeah,
way people see your titles. So
yeah,
yeah, let's actually move on to the game mastering for hire thing because we're both doing it. It's the main source of income for us right now, right?
yeah.
What would you suggest to people looking to get into it? And I'll give my suggestions after.
Oh, okay. I think firstly, don't hold back. I've had a few people been like, I don't have enough experience. And I'm like, look at me. I, in terms of experience, I don't have very much experience. So I just say, if you want to be a GM, whether it's for a GM for hire or a GM just for free, just do it. I think the other big thing is you do need to not be afraid to put yourself out there on other platforms, whether like
Yes,
pick one, just pick one. I
just
picked
one.
TikTok,
Yep.
just one. Because it's if you pick too many, then you're spreading yourself too thin. Pick one, be really good at that
Yeah.
one, interact with other content creators, put out your posts on there, talk about your GMing experience, talk about games that you're hosting, all of that. I think it's important. You have to be your own advertisement. You have to be your own billboard,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
sucks. And I hate doing it. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'd just say, just do it.
Yeah. It's funny actually talking to because Start Playing Games has a wonderful Discord with a GM's only spot
Yeah.
on it. And I talk to them a lot about the social media aspect. And they always say, oh, I don't really get a good return on my social media. And I was like, oh man, maybe I shouldn't try this. But then I did. And that was the main reason for those of you who don't know, why One Shots Tavern exists. One Shots Tavern exists as originally my GM for Hire brand. And I started with TikTok because it was the one that I was the most addicted to at the time. And I thought, if
Mm,
I'm addicted to this, other people like me are addicted to this. And people like me are the people that I would like to be in my games. People who think
yeah.
like me, people who are weird like me, people who are nerdy like me. And so I started posting on it. At this point, I have 30 ish something players, 30 paid, no, sorry, 28 paid at this point, and then I have another 8 players who are in a friend's game, and then, of course, the actual play. Half of those 29, 28, 29 people came from TikTok. And you might think, that's only 14 people. Still, that's half of my income came from me talking to people on TikTok, which is one of the reasons why I'm a little mildly worried about the possibility of TikTok being banned. Do I think it's going to be banned? I hope not. I really hope that
I'm
eh,
crossing my fingers for you guys.
I think the Supreme Court is gonna shut it down because they've shut
Yeah.
down other TikTok bans across states who were like, "We are gonna ban this over free speech." And I can't see them having a reason to change that. There's already a precedent, but we don't know, and that's anxiety inducing. But half of my players came from TikTok, and all it took was most of my week creating content and posting regularly. It got easier after I got to 1,000 followers because then could have a link in my bio. But now
That
we're at
does help.
like almost 26. No, we are at 2,600 followers on TikTok.
Oh,
So
nice.
growing like 40 people a day because I started talking about game mastering for hire. And people were really interested in that, which works for the brand. And also, we're going to talk about it on an episode of the podcast where we just talk about game mastering for hire. But anyway, it's
I I
yeah,
actually have kind of a good example for
yeah,
how well
absolutely.
TikTok can work. I had a game where 3 players just suddenly all dropped for, like, various reasons. And so I came to my other 3 players and I proposed, I said, "Hey, I still wanna run the game for you guys. Let me, like, run, like, a module for you just to write that into the campaign a little bit so you guys aren't left without a game." And then I went to TikTok and I literally just said, "I am hosting a game in 3 hours, and if you wanna play D&D in 3 hours and
Yeah,
be in my game, join." And I got 2 players from that. Like,
absolutely.
it actually works. And it doesn't have to be, like, scummy advertisement or anything like that. It's literally you are putting yourself out there
Yeah, you
to
got an
have people
extra
play games.
20, $30 in your pocket and you wanna play a one shot tonight? Come join. And that's actually the interesting thing. Start playing games, typically, players coming from start playing games are less likely to interact with a one shot if they are not already one of the players of that GM.
Mm.
TikTok, on the other hand, allows for them to jump into a one shot. They're more interested. They're more
It was,
interested.
yeah. No, it was a long-term campaign, though. So they've, like, actually
Oh, that's
signed up for
awesome.
a full campaign. So
Yeah.
it's worked out
That's the
even better.
best. Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. A lot of the times you wanna run like a one shot, and that's a lot of the GMs starting out on start playing games are like, "Oh, I'm gonna post a one shot, I'm gonna do this," and it's like, they actually recommend to run campaigns on start playing games because
Yeah.
people who are coming from start playing games are going to be more interested in joining a full on campaign. Of course, you getting those players is the same way I got most of or a good half of my players is just saying,
Yeah.
"Hey,
Yeah.
I've got this game. This is the time. This is the place." And you always get people who are like, "I'm super interested, but that time doesn't work for me." And they stick around just to see if you're going to post a game in the time that
Yeah.
they want to play. And yeah, it's nice, like, building up this little community. You've had a bit of a head start on doing the building of a community thing than I have
Little
going from your Discord or going from Twitch to this. So, like, you have a nice user base to advertise to right off the bat, which is nice.
funnily enough, though, none of my Twitch players, or Twitch watchers rather, are in any of my campaigns.
That is fascinating to me because that's another reason why I look at TikTok and say, "This is such an amazing resource for this industry." because the conversion rates from these other platforms, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, sucks.
Yeah.
It's hard to get people on those platforms to actually jump in and do the thing. Whereas on TikTok, literally all we have to do is post, and then the interest is what makes it not viral, but 5,000 views, which is often a lot better than our normal videos are getting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that it's definitely a different precedent on TikTok. There are a lot more people who are advertising just different things. Like I'm sure you've seen the people who are like, I'm doing abundance courses or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Some sort of courses that you have to pay for. I think TikTok, for some reason, just attracts the people who are interested in picking up
Doing
courses
something.
and
Yeah.
paying for things. And it's not everybody, granted, but it does attract a certain kind of person
Yeah.
that is willing to give money for goods.
Here's the thing. Think about it this way. TikTok is something that people will spend 5 hours looking at, sometimes more
Yeah.
in a day, right? And so those are people with free time, a need for entertainment, and often they are over the age of 18 and under the age of 40. And they're in a unique, not unique portion of their life, but they're in a part of their life where they're willing to spend a little bit of money each week for 3 to 4 hours of entertainment with a group of people for the social aspect of it, right? I have a lot of
Yeah.
players who joined just because they wanted to have the chance to hang out with people for 3 to 4
Mm.
hours because work or life just doesn't allow them to do it. And so game mastering for hire allows this social aspect that works great. I believe, yeah, Devin on our Start Playing Games, Devin Chulik interview episode said that he sees TTRPGs as a cure for loneliness. And people
Mm.
are willing to pay for that cure to loneliness because they want to feel involved. They want to enjoy entertainment with others, especially in this post pandemic world where we spent a year just being inside
Yeah.
talking to our family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's very
absolutely.
true.
I love being a game master for hire. It's nice. I don't know how close you have become with your players. I know that it's a little bit different being a woman
A
in
little
this
bit, yes.
space, right? Whereas for me as a guy, I don't think about the possible like weirdness that can come from players because I would be completely oblivious if any of my players actually did have a crush on me. But for me, I've become like I actually sat down and was like, I wanted to see if I could name every single one of my players in a short amount of time. And I was able to name every single one of my players in a short amount of time because I have become so close to them. There's like this nice thing where it's like they've become my friends, but they also want to pay me for my services. And that is really nice because it feels very much like they support me and they support the
Yeah.
things that I'm doing. However, I'm actually interested to hear about this side of things from your perspective because it's not a perspective I'm used to.
It's it's definitely interesting. I guess taking it back to my Twitch days, especially like early days, I was definitely a lot friendlier with strangers. But unfortunately that kind of does turn into I I had a guy who unfortunately developed a very parasocial like romantic relationship with me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware, obviously, and if I had been aware, then I would have shut it down. And when I got divorced, I waited a bit of time before I announced that I was dating my husband. Um, and as soon as that was announced, this guy was furious. I think that kind of triggered the whole, okay, I need to put a
Arm's
little bit of
length.
space. Yeah, I'm always friendly to people. There's no reason for me to be mean or horrible or anything, obviously. And obviously, my players are customers, so I am going to be polite and I'm going to be friendly. I do keep up with people, but not necessarily to the point where I'm checking in on them all the time. And it is just because of that arm's length wall. And it sounds really horrible voicing it because I want to be friends with people and
Yeah.
I want people to view me like I am a friendly person that they can approach. And I have had players who have approached me and said, like, I'm going through a bit of a hard time. I've got one player, I won't go into all of his personal details because obviously that's his stuff, but he has approached me with things that have been hard. And I've said, look, like, if you do need something, like, please let me know. But at the same time, like, I also know that I have to put a little bit of a wall up there and just,
Right.
there is unfortunately a little bit of a boundary there because I think that all too often people can develop some sort of parasocial relationship with women. And it's even with players in my games. I had a female player in one of my campaigns and she was married and another player decided that he wanted to have a flirtatious sort of relationship with her character. And he was also married.
It gets weird. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, it did turn really sour, unfortunately. And it put a damper on things. And so I've learned, especially like seeing other people's interactions, that I have to put that wall there. I
Absolutely.
can't be super friendly with people. I can't like check in and ask how people's days are going. I'll ask a general group. I'll check in with my
Right.
players in general, but private messages I tend to keep mostly very structured. Let's talk about your
Yeah.
characters, and if you're gonna miss a session, please let me know. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I
Listen, as a woman in content creation, you have to think about how everything is going to affect you and affect your players
yeah,
and affect
yeah,
your income and your safety. Your safety is going to be a top priority. Your player's safety is going to be a top priority. People
of
have a
course,
hard enough
yes.
time not falling in love with their game masters as it is, right? The number of stories I have heard that are positive of people falling in love and getting married to their game masters is a
Mm,
lot. But in this space where these people were complete strangers to us before they started playing with us, you have to think about things that I don't have to think about, right? It's safer
yeah,
for me
yeah,
to have these parasocial relationships with my players because for one, they first thing I talk about my wife constantly because I want them to know, hey, I'm not interested in a
yeah,
romantic
yeah,
relationship with one of my players, right? I love my wife very much, right? And
yes,
it's just that's like a safety thing, right? To say, "Hey,
yeah.
I'm married." So that they know and they don't start to think in that way.
And I think
Yeah.
that's something else that you do have to keep in mind. If you have a partner, because I've got my husband, you've got your wife, I also have to think about his feelings.
Yeah,
You And I don't wanna overstep any bounds that make him uncomfortable, and
absolutely.
he's had to come to this acceptance of my wife is a content creator, my
Yeah,
wife is a GM, and I
public
do
facing
mostly
figure.
GM. Yeah, and I do mostly GM for men,
Yeah.
and of course, if you're not stable in your own relationship, that can create tension and problems and instability, and luckily, I have such a wonderful, supportive husband who I'm in such a secure relationship with. But I do have to consider his feelings as well as my own safety too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one of the bits of advice that I talked to you about when you first started looking into game mastering for hire was there is a difference between you as a game master and me as a game master. And it is, as a woman, you don't have to prove yourself to be as safe as I would have to, right? Listen, I am a assigned male at birth, straight white guy. I have to prove to my customer base that I am a safe person for them to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
around because I have a diverse set of players who might be a bit uncomfortable with me until I've proven myself. And I think one of the first bits of advice gave you was, listen, I had to start off at the $15 range because I had to earn my way up and I had to
Yeah.
prove it. And I completely understand because, of course, a lot of problematic things have come from straight white men in this world, believe it or not.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but it's true. Whereas I told you to start at like 20 to $25, even up to
Yeah, you did.
$30 because have this space to be a little bit safer. I'm actually surprised though when you say that most of your players are men because I don't know what it's like to be a woman. So I don't really know how that works. I try to understand as best as I can, but I really expected for you to have a much larger woman identifying player base.
I expected that as well. I do currently have somebody who is interested in joining one of my games who wants to who's in I believe a queer relationship because she said I'm looking for a queer safe for me and my girlfriend. And yeah, I that's what I was expecting is I was expecting more female members to join, but it is mostly men. I
Yeah.
think as much as we like to as much as we like to see diversity in games in any sort of gaming sphere, it is still predominantly
Primarily
male.
men. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it surprised me too much when all of my players, not all of them, but most of them turned out to be men.
Yeah. I
It-
think I recently did the math on my players. And while, yes, predominantly most of my players identify as men, I think it was something like 35% of my players are identify as women. And that kind of felt nice because I was like, oh, I they see me as a safe person, and that's definitely wonderful, because I wanna be a safe person for all of
Yeah,
my
yeah.
players all the time. So, it's really been an interesting journey for me as a game master, but let's pivot over now to
Mhm.
Vesper Frost and your introduction to Cypher System. I know that Cypher System is still new to you, mostly
Very,
because
very
our
new.
recording is a bit sporadic for the moment until everything settles down. What do you think of Cypher System and the narrative tools that it offers to tell a story?
So, okay, I really only have D&D 5e to compare to. I did
Yes.
play 2 games of Pathfinder, which that game unfortunately fell apart, so I don't really have much to compare with Pathfinder. But it's definitely a steep learning curve for Cypher. I
Yeah.
think I think there's some beauty in it when you finally learn and understand it. It seems like a simple system once you get over that hill.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm quite over that hill.
Yeah.
I think I will be at a point, but I think I
Yeah.
need a couple more solid sessions. We need to make sure we're on our recording schedule,
Yes.
and I think I'll get it. I'll get it. But I think narratively, it is quite interesting. And granted, I don't know if it's because of our players' play style or your DMing style or just the way that Cypher System works. But I am often surprised like how little we roll. And I think you did say you don't roll as much in Cypher System,
Yeah.
but I do like the rolls.
Yes.
I'm a dice girl.
No, I completely understand. And as we get more into Cypher, there's going to be more roles, obviously. But we're at a point right now where we are exploring our characters and growing
Yeah, yes we are.
into who is Vesper Frost, who is Egg, who is Seer, right? And we are like exploring that while also figuring out where it is that the party wants to go. But the thing that I love about Cypher is there's this oh, it's with Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, you are very limited on what you can do to make sure that you are going to beat the roll, right?
Mm.
In Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, you have modifiers, right? You might get advantage in some situations, you might get disadvantage in others. And so sometimes it does feel like you are there's more like chance involved.
Yeah, I do
Where yeah.
understand that.
Whereas with Cypher System, especially as you tier up and as you gain effort and you gain even more edge to make things more effort free, it's all about how much you're willing to put into the role as a
Mhm.
player. And so if you look at a task, and I can give you an example, if you look at daunting task like fighting somebody who is a big bad in one way or another. Maybe they're just a small big bad, maybe the stakes are high, maybe it's personal for your character and you really want to land that hit. In Cypher, you can lower the difficulty of the roll. And so for those of you listening, if you haven't listened to the Eye of the Tyrant, please check out the Eye of the
Please do.
Tyrant. We're having a lot of fun
100% do.
and we are becoming more and more cohesive with every session as we grow together. And it's great. But with Cypher System, you have this rolling mechanic where you have to beat a difficulty 0 through 10, and you multiply the difficulty level by 3, right? A 0 you don't have to roll for, but a 10 would be you have to roll a 30 or higher, which is obviously impossible on a d20. You have this thing called effort that is going to reduce the difficulty by 1 whole level. 3 whole positions on the die. The what you have to get to. And as you tier up, you get more and more of that effort to up to 6 levels of effort total, which means that you can reduce the difficulty by 18 points on the die if you use all of your effort. It is going to drain you and it is going to drain a lot of your resources because in Cypher System, you are using your mental pools, you're using your speed pools, and you're using your might pools, which also act as your HP. And so it's one of those things where it's like, how much does my character care about this moment to get this done? So I have a character that is in a campaign that is finishing on Tuesday nights named Cedric. And Cedric has gone through the ringer. And there was a situation where something felt a bit more personal to him, and he really needed to get a win. For example, he was infected by some alien material and lost his memories and came face to face with the person who did it to him. And it was one of those situations where I had help from my team. They were basically all granting me an asset which an asset works like effort, it reduces the level down, which is super nice and is one of the actions that you can do as a player in combat. You don't necessarily have to make an attack roll. Instead, you can be like, "Hey, over here," and then someone else goes, "Hey, over here. Hey," and it distracts the enemy. My character really needed to kill this guy. That was his whole thing. He needed to kill this guy. But my friends were providing so many of these assets that I was able to instead focus all of my effort on my damage. And when you do effort on damage, it increases your damage by 3 points, to the point
Jeez.
that I put 5 levels of effort into my damage, increasing the amount of damage done by 15 points of damage, which is crazy because base weapons do 2 points, 4 points, and
Mm.
6 points of damage in Cypher system. To the point to where I nearly one-shot this guy. Somebody else had taken a few hits on him, and I was able to end him in a single round, and because of that, it just felt narratively satisfying. I nearly killed my character to do it. I expended every point that I could from his resources. And because of that, it felt so satisfying when I landed that hit and dealt that damage. So eventually you'll get to the point to where you are looking at your character in this way and you're looking at these resources that you feel as though you are really just doing amazing things. You guys are still low
Yeah.
level, right? One of you, I think one of you just hit tier 2.
I need to level up and then I'll be tier 2 as well. So,
Yeah. It's once you start being able to diversify your character's, special abilities and stuff and really start to key in what it is you want to do, that's when things start to get really magical for Cypher System.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Vesper Frost is how old?
She's like 24, 25. I don't have an exact age
Fresh
for
out of
her. She's
university.
like, yeah, she's like young. She's out of university, ready to explore the world until the world wrecked her life.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So we're actually starting to explore a little bit of that. Vesper doesn't know that we're starting to explore a little bit of that.
Mm.
But in the latest episode, PK is starting to get a bit into the backstory of Vesper from the secret organization that has contracted him to bring. So Vesper is an archaeologist,
Yes.
and which is an odd job to have in a universe where everyone believes that the only people in that galaxy came from one planet and spread out from one planet. Vesper has an inkling, probably due to the professor
A
that she had,
little bit.
that maybe that
I just
isn't.
had to spring that
Yeah,
improv on you.
I no, I love it. I love it. Honestly, it helps to build that story. But like now we're starting to see like Vesper's questioning the narrative already on her own terms of what the Empire has told everybody.
Yeah, she is a little bit.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me about, you can talk a little bit about our zero session. Just don't give any major stuff coming down the line spoilers, but you can talk about some of the nondescript things that you found. Be-
Dear. Yeah, yeah. I guess to start off with, like, even before we reached session 0, um, I wanted to play a character. Okay, this is really bad. Don't do this, guys. Don't develop 2 characters at the same time. But I had this idea basically of a character who could see ghosts and interacted with ghosts. And unfortunately, campaign that I'm in as a player, my friend was like, "Here, create a player," and then DJ's also, "Here, create a player for the actual play." The 2 characters that I've created at the same time were similar concepts. In that D&D campaign, I'm playing a homebrew spirit-bound sorcerer
Yeah.
who can see ghosts and can use the ghosts for her vitality, basically. And then for Vesper, obviously she can speak with dead.
Right.
So, unfortunately, there was a little bit of a crossover, and hence why when you said, her arm said property of Eric, I was like, that is, my character's name is Aphiri, and that's Aphiri's brother,
That's
funnily enough,
so
like,
funny.
so Aphiri's brother's name is Eric. Vesper has an arm that says property of Eric, unbeknownst to DJ, and I thought, well, it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I wanted a character who could speak with dead. And personally, I've always had a fascination with archaeology.
Yeah.
I It's always been something that I love seeing videos on TikTok about what ancient people were doing and all sorts of things like that. And I thought, okay, with Cypher System, it seems like this is something that you can literally do whatever you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly what I did. But yes, and we got into the session 0, and Vespers discovered some lore that shouldn't be there, and yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want me to say really, but yeah.
No, yeah. I can take it from there. So this lore really questions one of the major teachings of the Empire, which kind of paints a bit of a target on Vesper's back as questioning the truthfulness of the things that the Empire says. And after discovering this lore and grabbing whatever data that Vesper could, Vesper was then exited this ruin to see that there was a major battle going on over the surface of the planet. Vesper then ran through the woods back towards her ship, where there was a guard waiting. Not a guard, but a soldier waiting. And there was just a bit of an altercation as Vesper decided, nope, because he was going to kill her. And
I simply shot his hand.
skillfully shot his hand, hopped in her ship, and took off. Unfortunately, the Empire was able to get her, and through essentially through her parents, basically going, throw the book at her. The book was thrown at her, and she entered the Eye of the Tyrant as a prisoner. Confused, lost, trying to piece together what exactly had happened.
Yep.
And that's where the first session picks up, is Vesper entering the Eye of the Tyrant for the first time. Vesper's got a lot of worldview stuff that she holds on to because of her upbringing, right? She's
Yes.
fairly noble. A mother's a senator, father's a weapons manufacturing magnate. So, like, very much at the top of society. Tell me about that.
Okay. Another unfortunate character crossover because Aphiri, my sorcerer, is also from a noble family. And my other DM did point this out and said, Eryn, you tend to play a lot of noble characters. And I've realized, yeah, actually, I do, except for one in particular character, but we won't get into that. I don't know why that's a thing, but here we are. I'm sure some psychology person can come and tell me, like, why I'm so attracted to playing noble characters. But yeah,
Yeah. Everybody wants to be somebody.
exactly. I don't know. I think it's definitely really interesting the kind of relationship that I've set up um for I've lost my character name now, Vesper. Too many characters floating around in this head.
Absolutely. perils of game mastering for hire and also playing in a bunch of games.
Seriously, seriously. Just keeping track of them all is sometimes impossible. You get an idea for one campaign that crosses over into another. You're like, wait, that doesn't work. Anyway.
Yeah,
um, yeah, Vesper, I think it was by accident that I made her noble, but it was more the family relationships that I thought I'd focus on, which I think also by accident somewhat reflect the family relationships that I currently have with my own family.
right,
Um, they are currently a little bit strained. I get on with my mother, I get on with my youngest sister, but I do have some conflictions with my other siblings. And I think when I was writing um Vesper's backstory, I was thinking like, okay, I don't think she gets on very well with her parents. They did put her through school. Um they were supportive of that, but the relationship is probably a little bit more strained. I based the sister character a little bit more off of the that I get along with and thought
right.
we do still have a little bit of a distant relationship, but there is something there and she doesn't get on with her brother. And I thought that's what I was thinking when I wrote her backstory. I'm sure we'll explore it more
Oh, absolutely.
as the as the game goes on. It'll be interesting. But it's funny actually because I did see I think there's a couple of TikToks out there talking about how D&D and even Cypher System, so any sort of tabletop RPG where you're actually role playing ends up being some sort of therapy for the players because
Really
they end up
does.
writing like what they know. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm not a noble. I don't have that kind of money.
No,
So that's the one thing that I don't relate to.
listen, I get it. Like I grew up not knowing that like I had like autism and ADHD. There my dad always like knew and suspected, but like my mom
Mm,
didn't necessarily want me to be diagnosed. So like I always, even though I'll be honest, I'm gonna say it, I was a very attractive guy in high school. I hold on to those days. I was weird and a bit of an I seemed the type of person who was like thought they were too cool for everyone, but in reality it was I'm awkwardly uncomfortable being around people. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
that I thought that I was better than anyone. It was more I just didn't know how to relate with anybody that I was going to school with. And so because of that, I was like bit of the outcast type. I was the emo kid, then I was the hardcore
Mm,
kid, and then I was like the artsy photography guy, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
I got into film, and it was just esoteric. Come to find out, just hyperfixations, right? The entire childhood,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything that I loved just was a hyperfixation and a result of my ADHD and autism.
But still the edgy stuff, so, you know.
Still the edgy stuff. It was always edgy stuff, but that is a regular thing for people like me, right? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
funny growing up and realizing, oh, not all of these are personality traits. But and that's the
Just own
thing
it.
is when you grow up that way and you know, people realize that something's up with you before you realize that something's up with you. A lot of my characters also end up being weirdos, right?
Yeah.
They end up being some kind I like to play rogues and warlocks an awful lot. I had a very
Yeah,
religious
yeah,
upbringing, and so that's often the type of therapy that comes out for me
yeah.
is like the characters that I am playing are just they're very friendly. They want to be friends with people, but they don't really know how. Because it was
Mm,
just like this is how I think of things. And so that's how my character thinks of things. And I have a very strong sense of justice. So my players are or my characters are always chaotic good
yeah.
because that's how I view the world is like through that chaos
Yeah.
of the justice and good must prevail like no matter what. And yeah, it's absolutely a thing we do. It's not necessarily one-to-one reflection of ourselves, but often our characters are an idealized version of who we want to be with the characteristics that we have. Is what I see in all of my players, it's what I see in my own
Mhm.
characters. It's just this it's them, but like, with the intensity turned up by 100%.
You're gonna get all sorts of people commenting, "I never play anything like myself." It's
It's
gonna
a
happen.
lie. They're liars. Go ahead, comment it. Tell me that you never play a character that is who you want to be or who you're afraid of being, because it's going to be one or the other. Either it's who you as a person wish you were, or the person that you are afraid that you could be. Always. I'm telling you. That is
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
guaranteed. 100%. So, let's see. Go ahead and give your spiel, your tagline, your reason why people should be listening to The Eye of the Tyrant other than to hear us goof around.
Other
Uh,
than to watch Corb be egg
yeah,
and
but I'm
which is
besides Cord being
phenomenal, by
egg,
the way.
always. Yeah.
I guess my spiel, you should watch Eye of the Tyrant, 1, if you want to learn another system, and 2, because taking in other content can help you grow as a person. If you are consuming other content, whether it be as a player or a GM or a writer or a movie maker or whatever your creative sphere or even non-creative sphere you are, you can get so many ideas just by listening to other content. And I think that DJ is a phenomenal DM who's putting out an amazing story here, and he's got 3 amazing players and then 1 pretty average player who's myself
No, no,
playing,
you're a great player.
but playing in such an interesting campaign where we do get to explore a lot of different topics, and I hope that we continue to explore even more. Like, I just watch it, okay? Just
Yeah.
I don't think that was a run-on sentence and that ended with "just watch it."
No.
Just do it.
Listen, join us, watch it, join our Discord. Like, you can go to oneshotstavern.com, you can find a permanent link to our Discord there where you can hop in and join and discuss the episode. There are people who really want to discuss. There's just they want more people to come in and discuss with them.
Yes.
And they want people
I'll
to
pop in discuss with you
yeah,
guys if you really want. I'll be
absolutely.
there
Me too
on
as well.
occasion.
And if you want to play video games with a bunch of strangers who share similar interests, you can join the Discord as well. Because there are people who have pickup games, there are people who have pickup D&D games. And they just go, "Hey, I want to have this game. You want to play?" But also, you can learn about when any of us have games. We've got a self-promotion channel where we post and say, "Hey, we need players for this and this time. Come join us." Because we just want to foster a really good, caring community of people who all share very similar interests from a diverse walk of life. So we would love to have you all. oneshotstavern.com. Of course, please check out our Patreon as well. You can get a special role in your Patreon that is going to give you a special segment of the Discord where you can discuss about really whatever you want to talk about. And it's a nice little private space for those who have joined our Patreon. But is there anything you would like to get to? Is there are there any games that you have going right now? I'm going to include your start playing games link down in the link section here of the podcast and YouTube. Promote yourself.
Yeah. Currently, I think most of my games are full.
That's always
Which
good.
is quite a feat. I do have, if you're interested in a Call of the Netherdeep campaign, I've got 1 slot on my Tuesday. I've got I run a post-calamity Exandria, so this happens 25 years after the Divergence, so after the Divine Gate's been closed, Calamity's been ransacked through Exandria, slightly adjusted time period just because I can and I'm God.
Right.
But I've got one I've got one seat for that on my on Saturday, and I'm potentially opening up to single player campaign play-by posts that you could check out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I I've considered the play by post. It's it's daunting because it's a lot of reading for me, and I have to read
See,
all
I
of it.
figured yeah, I figured if I do a single player play-by post, it's not too much because it's one-to-one. I have considered doing group ones, but because of my time, I'm currently in 9 campaigns, 6 of which
Right.
I run. So my time is quite full. So I
Yep.
do have to consider that. But otherwise, I would love to run a group session, maybe sometime in the future, have a better schedule. But
Absolutely.
we'll see.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for episode 2 here of Downtime. We're going to have another 2 more of these type of interviews. One's going to be with Braden, one's going to be with PK. We're going to talk about those, and then how we're going to switch things up, and we will be doing a uh, sit down 45 minutes to an hour where it is just us talking about the month episodes that have come out, where basically we just talk about everything that's going on so that way you can stay up to date, and if you miss an episode, it's okay. Still, go back and
Get
listen to the episode
insider
when you can.
knowledge.
Get insider knowledge, hear what we think about the actions of the players, and yeah, again, thank you all so much. Make sure you click the subscribe button here on YouTube or here on the podcast, depending on where you're listening. Follow us both on all of our socials, TikTok especially at One Shots Tavern. What's yours?
It's Eryn rolls dice, but it's ERYN. Just
Yeah,
gotta get the unique spelling in there.
of course. It's all about the brand. And yeah, check out our Start Playing Games profiles. If you're interested or would like a specific type of game run for you, please feel free to message us. If we have the time, we can try to get it set up and together and hopefully fulfill that request. But stick around. Check out the rest of the episodes of One Shots Tavern. If you haven't caught up to The Eye of the Tyrant yet, you've got time. Go right ahead. Each of the episodes is about 2 hours to 2.5 hours long for that digestibility and being able to stay up to date. But I want to thank you, Eryn, so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you.
I'm very excited to see the story that Vesper comes full blossom and
Yeah.
exactly
Yeah.
where it is she is and what position she finds herself in the galaxy. Until next time, I'm DJ, and this is One Shot Tavern.